Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, where we connect the wisdom and experience of ministry leaders to the realities of ministry in the trenches. We journey with ministry leaders through all the hidden aspects that help us to become fruitful ministers. Here at the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, we discuss the stuff that no one told you about Catholic ministry and strive to help ministry leaders succeed from the beginning. Our hosts are Christy Cabanis, the Director for Missionary Discipleship for the Diocese of Cleveland, and Sarah Jarzembowski, the Director for Marriage and Family Life at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish in Crofton, Maryland. Please show your support for our efforts by clicking like and subscribe and commenting below. And now here are Sarah and Christy. Here we go. With Andrew and Terri Lyke. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast. Christy and I are here with Drew and Terri Lyke, who've been married since 1975. They've spent more than 40 years in marriage ministry in the Archdiocese of Chicago, and are the founders of Arusi Network, which works to strengthen the institution of marriage in the African American community. Arusi Network is a ministry that focuses on strengthening marriage among African Americans. Their work promotes, supports, and encourages sacramental marriage among African Americans through programs, consultation, and collaborative initiatives. Distinguished by its focus on community as a stakeholder, Arusi Network highlights the symbolic relationship between the marriage and the village. That is fantastic. So, Drew and Terri, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. I have known you for such a long time, and I was looking you guys up to see your bio because I've known you in so many different ways, and I've been to your talks for Theology on Tap, and I've sat at your feet to learn about marriage and marriage enrichment. And gosh, I have learned a lot that about marriage and how to master certain things and work around certain things, and grow in love and relationship in my family. And so I'm just so blessed that you're joining us here, and that you get to meet Christy and Christy gets to meet you. This is just fantastic. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to have you both here. And with, this is a lot of experience that we're talking about, your history and your ministries. And I want to get started at the very beginning. Like, how did you guys get started in ministry? And I'm not imagining that it started out with the two of you as a couple. So if you want to give us a little bit of background there, how did that happen?
Well, actually, it did start with us as a couple. It was in our third year of marriage.
Yes.
We got involved with Marriage
Encounter. So we weren't involved in marriage.
We were in the church.
There you go.
We weren't in the church. The 1960s had really turned me off to organized religion. And the Catholic Church was a white racist institution that just didn't have room for me. And I was saying it loud that I was Black and I was proud, and it seemed like the church wasn't interested in hearing that. So I was angry at the church. It was a church that was, that raised me, and that's where I learned about God, and my relationship with God began there. And so what was coming to pass in the middle 60s, and it seemed the church's lack of engagement with that just turned me off. I was actually in a minor seminary, and just the racist experiences we had in the there was enough to turn me off.
Well, unfortunately, that was around the time we met and were dating, and you proposed, and
let me go back. I got kicked out of the seminary. Okay. And I came, and I when I left the seminary, I left the church. I didn't want to go to another Catholic school, so I went to the public school down the street, Calumet High School in Chicago. It was a senior year, and that's where I met Terri.
It was nice. He had a car. You don't have too
Oh,
many
well.
students back in the 70s with a car. So I'm like, well, okay.
And little brothers and a little sister who were babies, who were what I thought of as chick magnets. You know, you got a convertible car, put the babies in the back, and the chicks just came, you know. So
Okay, enough of that. So
okay.
back to the question again.
All right.
Okay, so he's saying that, you know, to say that we grew up together in the church.
Mm.
We, around the time we were to get married, he says, I'm not getting married in the church. He was angry with the church. Unfortunately, I really wanted to get married in the church. So it started off
My issues, yeah.
with your issue, but I accepted that. I knew that it was just a temporary thing, and we did convalidate our marriage. And at that time, it was 7 years later,
Or
about 6 to 7 years, and you know, his uncle was a bishop at the time. He was a bishop in Cleveland, the auxiliary bishop, and he came to do this. So here, this convalidation was bigger than any wedding that
really
you
was.
imagine, and all the people that were there were our marriage encounter couples, you know, our friends, our couple friends, and families, and it was very beautiful.
And our newfound parish, St. Sabina's in Chicago,
Mhm.
which really kind of validated for me that the Catholic Church can be a home for me, because at St. Sabina's, we were Black and we had our symbols, and you walk in and it feels like, oh, we belong here, you know? And we hadn't experienced that before.
True. So from the youth ministry, so there was a youth ministry, and the marriage encounter experience said, came Father Mike, who volunteered us to be a part of the pre-Cana program. This was the first
For the Archdiocese.
pre-Cana program for the diocesan-based program in the country by African American couples. So we were so excited. It was us and two other couples, and it was a beautiful way of introducing us to ministry, and it was something that we knew about.
Yeah,
it was one of those. We grew up in marriage encounter. We knew and learned a lot about the sacrament,
just understanding
and what our mission is. All of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me some more about, say more about that? Was it your discovery of an understanding of the sacrament of marriage? I just know for myself, whenever I was doing marriage prep, part of that transformed my marriage, because I felt like, oh, I can't be telling other people to live like this if I'm not living like this. So do you guys have any wisdom there? What helped you to transform in your marriages and be better leaders? Was it just the knowledge? Do you think there was something else to play?
Well, I think what our experience had been, because I mean, those first few years were not, this wasn't a bed of roses. We were.
The newlywed adjustment was rough.
It was very rough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really brought us to marriage encounter. We weren't in the church, and what brought us to marriage encounter was some friends of ours who had gone on a weekend, and it was evident in them, like, wow, what the hell did you guys do? And we want some of that,
They were bugging, and we're like,
So we went to an information night, and that marriage encounter had, and for me it was a challenge, because it was very churchy.
Yeah,
it didn't want anything to do with the church, but despite its churchiness, the couples themselves were impressive, and so we went on the weekend. Right,
and after the weekend, we were involved in a couple sharing group. All right, so from there you learn to listen to other couples. You learn to share from your experience, You learn to pray together as a couple. You learn that was a realization that we had, where the couple needs other couples in order to survive.
That social support.
So that social support and marriage and community was evident then. We learned, we shared, again, like you said, Christy, sharing stuff that you normally don't share. But guess what? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So we felt safe. You need to have that safe space in order for you to share your feelings regarding your marriage.
And we also discovered in this marriage community that the well-being of our relationship wasn't solely dependent on us.
Mm.
That we had a community of stakeholders who supported us, encouraged us. We had role models. And the longer we were in that, we actually had couples who we were role models for. So it was this symbiotic relationship, you know, between marriage and community was evident to us, at least in this marriage community we found ourselves in. Wow. So that got us into the marriage ministry in Chicago. And that went very well. And we expanded from marriage prep to doing, you know, marriage enrichment for married couples.
Right. The retreats, the programs, the workshops, the seminars, the theology on taps, you know, all those things came about after having that confidence in doing pre-Cana. So it's just that those blessings just kept coming. You know, we said, oh wow, look at us. we started off reading our talk.
We were right out our talk. And
it was wonderful.
and we were able to just trust our own instincts and trust our own story, and to be share that for the good or the bad, you know, and we found that it fed people, and in doing so, it fed us.
Yeah, and even during our times when the kids we have 2 children, and when they were little, you know, we were able to. We didn't do the retreat programs, maybe a one-day kind of workshop thing, but it was good for us to get out of the house and get a sitter. So we got as much out of the seminars as the couples who attended. You know, it was fun being around other couples. See, it doesn't matter who's doing the facilitation. It's the interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So do you think that there's specific dynamics about Black or African American Catholic marriages that the rest of us don't know about? Because I mean, I'm feeling that sense of, I'm still feeling some senses of the racist attitudes in churches today. I mean, when you even said it, Drew, I felt tears, you know, come up for me. So what are the dynamics there that we all need to be aware of that make it different, the ministry?
Well, it's all encompassing. I mean, we live in a racist culture.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is. As a Black male, I enter the world already criminalized.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. Now, you learn to thrive through that, you know, but those place added burdens on love relationships. It does, especially when you have an economy that's driven by, you know, on the backs of the poor, and you live and you're a person of a caste system on the lower end, so you're the poor. You know,
those that are poor do well.
So yeah, there are a set of issues of anxiety, mental health, all kinds of things that impact the Black community because of the overarching racism in our society. So that just exacerbates and magnifies those normal issues of marital relationships as well, you know.
And you know, now that we said, oh, we're going to retire But you know what? That was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Everyone can, right now you can say what happened before COVID and post-COVID, right? And you know what we went through. This nation went through a lot. The church went through a lot, and families, and the anxieties, the stressors, all of those things affect us as a married couple. And it's basically the thing, we came back because people need us. You know, we need it. We need to
It was
reach
good for
out.
us, yeah.
Yeah, it was fine we survived being quarantined, but not everyone else. They were just miserable with their kids. They were with their spouses, and like, I'm not liking you right now. This isn't what I thought it would be.
It wasn't no picnic for us.
Oh, come on, but it wasn't as bad as we thought. Well, we have like the two-level house and his man cave. That's where we are now, in the basement. So we can hide.
I call it the dungeon. That's where I stay, you know.
But I can imagine living in a small flat. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that COVID exacerbated, or some of those things that really did come to the forefront that you saw that did pull you out of retirement?
Well, you know, actually, it wasn't just COVID. COVID was kind of the tail end of a period of time. I've been sick. I was diagnosed with cancer in 2015. So, you know, I had several years of recovery, and you know, then I was forced into retirement, and Terri retired to take care of me. So in all of our years of marriage, we had never been up under each other like that. You know,
and
unemployed too, and so we, you know, having two separate careers and a ministry we shared, but having two different worlds of work was healthy for us. You know, I think everybody, you know, if all we got is each other, we'll bore each other to death. You know, and so now we had just this space. I couldn't go out because I have an autoimmune issue. So I couldn't be a part of church and all those things that we were accustomed to being part of. So it felt very much isolated and closed in.
So the isolation is what we heard from a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And people who don't want to go out anymore. All of a sudden, well, someone's said her husband doesn't even want to go out to restaurants anymore. He doesn't want to go to the movies. They don't date anymore. They don't do any passion for doing things, even their, you know, activities in sports, and that it's the desires is gone because of being that way for such a period of time. How long does it take? What did we say about a habit?
Oh, well, just in terms of being part of church, you know, we were saying that, you know, people couldn't wait till this pandemic was over so we can get back to church. I said, but when you think about it, for most people who are church goers on a regular basis every Sunday, that's what we do. It's not just our commitment to God, our love for our parish and all that. Much of it is habit. It's what we do on Sundays, you know.
There's people.
Well, it didn't take long to break that habit, and people got very comfortable with virtual worship and so forth. So the idea of going back into those spaces and interrupting your leisure time that you gotten very accustomed to on Sundays was a challenge for a lot of people.
And not seeing the families and couples that they know.
Yeah, but then, you know, what came out of that, you know, you say when you're given lemons, you make lemonade. The lemonade we found was in virtual communications like what we're doing right now. And we would have Zoom dinners with our friends and family. And as a matter of fact, we were connecting with people from across the country who we normally didn't connect with. So in many ways, we felt more connected with some people, you know, We miss hanging out more with our grandbabies. That's
That's the
definitely
hard part.
a
Yeah.
hard part, you know. But you know, we got through it. We're here. Yeah.
Amazing. So can you tell us too a little bit about how the work that you have done has transformed your marriage? You've mentioned it a couple of times, but like, how have you two grown closer as a couple and closer to God?
Oh, my
Through
God.
experience. I mean, you know, they talk about growing in wisdom and age and grace. You know, that's been our case. And you think about, you know, if there were, you know, the question you often get, what, if you could go back, you know,
Yeah.
you know, if you knew then what you know now, you know, how would it be different? And the truth is, if we knew then what we know now, we'd have run for the hills. There's no way in hell to marry. I mean, you know, we always tell engaged couples, you really don't want a crystal ball. It's scared the living hell out of you, you know.
And the thing that would scare you would be all of those things that we're different, first of all. And our families are so different.
We come from different families.
This family, oh my God.
Your family. What do you mean?
Okay, so
I'm sure I don't know what either of you are talking about.
There's never been a comment about anyone's mother in my house.
Nope. I'm sure nobody knows that conversation at all.
We leave mothers out of it.
So the thing about it is that we realized, yeah, we are married to the family, not just
Yeah.
the person, right? So that is one of the things. And when we talk about old and getting old together, well, we've learned a lot, and that there's a lot of grit and grace.
Yeah.
And that was the topic of our discussion with the couples of our last retreat, grit and grace. So going through grit, we talked about the better for worse, richer for poor, sickness and health. Those are all the things that we have gone through.
Yeah.
You know, so a newlywed couldn't say that they have gone through all that.
They're at the very beginning of it.
Exactly.
With all of the ideals and the dreams, you know, when you dream about growing old together, that growing old means, of course, you're going to have your health. Of course, your finances are going to be solid, you know, and those kids you had, those perfect kids you had, who now have perfect grandkids, you know, all that's in place. That's not life. That's not reality. And I think that what life teaches us is resilience. We learn not to perfect each other or to strive for a perfect marriage or to be a perfect spouse, but a spouse who is willing to say, I'm sorry when we mess up, a spouse who is willing to forgive, a spouse who's willing to carry their spouse's issues. So when we stop trying to fix each other and change each other and learn to accept each other as we are, even the stuff we don't like, you find that, and this is where age and wisdom come, because we see it so clearly in hindsight. We look back and we realize, wow, we can do this. You can't do it without suffering.
That's the part where
suffering is a part of loving.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have sent each other. We have individually sent the other to the cross. We have carried the cross. And that is another thing that we have to realize is not going to be easy. And you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly comes out, right?
I thought we weren't going to talk about your mom.
No. Okay. You know what? Maybe he can be a stand-up comedian and his Sarah, don't laugh.
Sorry.
I'm hearing too from you both, like there are ways in which the being in community helps to explore that even better. Because I think if you're isolated by yourself with your spouse and you're just trying to live out your relationship with one another without anyone else involved in that, you can really easily get into a bad place where, you only see the surface of other couples. And so you think, oh, like everything, the Lykes are perfect and everything's wonderful. The Jarzembowskis are just so loving towards each other. And, how could they ever argue or have a financial spat or any of the things that are going on in my house? So I think that the being in community also helps, though, for us, because the ones that are up can help lift when you're down, and for other people to say me too, right?
That's right.
So, it's like every married couple has this secret that they don't want anybody to know. We're not, we got issues, but the reality is, we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we discover our own resilience, it's easy to recognize that same resilience in others. We know that grass on the other side ain't no greener than the grass we got, And one of the things that we see as a gift to us, because we embrace our life, our marriage in community with our stakeholders, is that, in the state of Illinois where we live, and I think it's probably every state, that in order to get a divorce, all you need are irreconcilable differences. Well, we got grounds, plenty, and we could make that decision, and say, 48 years is enough, and move on and seek our happiness elsewhere, But our reality is that would be hell to pay. That we have stakeholders, people in our lives who would not allow that. That's our blessing.
And Sarah's one of them.
That's a blessing. I would be hearing from people. What the hell are you doing?
A lot of explaining to do, right?
And so our message to the church is we need to help couples to recognize that, and we need to be able to cultivate that with not push this whole fantasy about perfect and soulmates and God sent me this person. There are those times when I think, God, if you sent me this person, what the hell were you thinking? So that's the reality of married life.
And we need to give others license, and these are our stakeholders, okay? And that sounds like a corporate term. However, it is one that says, look, there are other people that we are accountable to as a married person. This is a sacrament, which is a little different than any other type of marriage. We're here to reflect God. And we're here to be of service to God's people. So it's holy matrimony and holy orders that are the sacraments of service, right? So what are you going to do? That's what the young couples should be asked. Based upon that definition of what a sacrament is, what are you going to do, right? So, you need to serve God's people. Now, when you're having a hard time, you need somebody to really ask you, somebody that you give license to. How's the marriage? How's things going?
And someone that, when they ask, will be truthful. One of the things that we've been doing marriage prep, marriage coaching, we've been involved in marriage community for a long, long time. And we take license. We see a couple that we haven't seen in a while. That's one of the first questions we'll ask. How's the marriage? You guys taking care of each other? And I imagine for some, if not many, that sounds like, ooh, wow.
Think it's in our business.
We're going right to the chase, in our business. But we make it clear, no, you are our business. We are in this together. And we think those couples in our lives as God couples. Like you have God parents and all that. These are God couples. We hold each other together. We've had many of our God couples are those folks who, at a time of crisis in our own lives, held us together. Who wouldn't hear it. This notion of splitting up and things like that. So they raised the standard for us. And I think that's something that we can do better in the church in terms of marriage ministry, marriage preparation, and ongoing formation, sacramental formation for married couples. We don't begin any kind of formation until you choose someone to marry. Well, that's a day late and a dollar short. And then once we jump through all the hoops to get married in the church, and once you're married, that's it.
They drop you like a hot potato.
You're on your own.
So where's the ongoing care?
So that's what our work is trying to encourage our parishes out there to develop that, and if they need some help, we'll come out and help you do it,
But the thing is, empowering couples and letting them know what their role is as a sacramental entity. You're here to teach, you're here, your children, being that example, that means not being perfect, but just being there through the ups and downs, and that's what we call grace, when we can look back and go, oh, yes, thank you, Lord, for this union and for what it represents.
And that perennial cycle in our lives of reconciliation. You have to be reconciling people always, and what we find is, whatever makes it difficult, the more you do it, you realize, well, that didn't cost me much, so we try to apologize quickly and forgive quickly. And forgiveness doesn't require somebody learning their lesson and never doing that again. No, there's some stuff I'm gonna do again, and I'm gonna need forgiveness again,
But then still must vow to never do it again if it's a big ticket item.
Oh, big ticket item.
Yeah, so that's part of the process.
But it comes down to the love that we strive. We don't do this perfectly. We strive to love each other the way God loves us. And that's the challenge.
Right?
Yeah.
Amen.
So, gosh, God brings us into such unique places, and you're right. If we had the crystal ball, would we even? No, I wouldn't be here. So I'm now in a place where I'm a marriage and family life minister, which who would have thunk that? What? So what could I be doing? What could people like me be doing who are European American, who are of a more what is considered the dominant culture? What could we be paying attention to in our ministries to outreach better, use welcoming language better? What are some things that we can generally incorporate into what we are doing in a way that is more engaging of more cultures?
Well, I think what happens, what's happening in the Western world today is, and this might sound like a harsh term, but it's a reality of white supremacy. With that sense of supremacy, it kind of boxes you into this, oh, I'm the giver and others are the receiver. What the reality is, there's so much to receive and grow from other cultures, that no, whiteness isn't the way. It's not the best way,
Mhm.
and that's what our nation, our culture needs to get beyond. We're still in that,
Mhm.
It's like that Father Flager, where he voluntold us.
Mhm.
That's what you do. Encourage ministry from the couples.
Mhm.
Those families. Don't forget, Black families are holy. They're not perfect. They may be a holy mess, but they are holy nonetheless.
That's our battle cry. Is somewhat like Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Of course, all lives matter. Of course, all families are holy.
holy.
But we need to say clearly, Black families are holy too,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and worthy
Yeah,
of the church's resources, attention, and so forth.
and they have gifts to give themselves.
Yes.
So we were a product of that, and we are so grateful that the church said, wait a minute here, we need to do something for African American families in the diocese. Let's do something for them specifically. And that is what is needed.
And that was
Just there and within the environment
Yeah.
that they are living in.
and that was our privilege to be included in that. Really, it has been.
And for clarification, for those who don't know the context, Father Flager is a white priest of the Archdiocese of Chicago, who has been pastor of a parish on the south side of Chicago for what, 20 something?
Since he's been there since the middle '60s,
Okay.
made an administrator somewhere around 80.
Okay.
It was after
Okay.
he was made a pastor in the '80s.
Okay.
Long time.
40.
Okay. And he's been embraced by the African community, the African American community there wholeheartedly. And he
So right.
has learned the cultural connections there and has embraced that and created within the context of the Mass, where the Mass rubrics allow it, for the culture of the African traditions to be
Yes.
part of that Mass.
I would even
Mass
say,
is a good 2 hours long because of that.
Yeah,
and I would say I wouldn't put the rubrics as some kind of field boundaries. So we crossed the line.
Okay.
We crossed that line because that line needs to be crossed. We do not worship the rubrics.
but they pray hard.
Yes.
They do praise and worship.
And I was
And
thinking about
we learned.
there.
So you are right. Here's a white priest that has lived in the community and now of the community after 40 plus years, but helping the African Americans learn about history and their goodness, pushing people forward.
Yeah.
You know, you're excellent. You're in the dance ministry. You know, that's what it is. So you're going to be one of the, interpretive dancers. You sing. Oh, you're pushed. There's the choir. You know, really elevating the kids, the young adults, and even the seniors are regarded highly. They have their own section in the parish. Excuse just for the seniors.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on our time here. I know. I'm sorry, Christy, that face.
Sure.
We'll have to have
million
you guys back,
questions.
because I think that this is a really great conversation for us to continue to have. I think conversations on marriage and family life, and this is good. So what is it that you wish you knew when you started, right?
Mhm.
What could have maybe what could maybe help some of our new ministers starting out? Yeah.
I would say be open to growing in this. I mean, and trust that as you do, you get stretched and you're stronger, you grow. And what may be difficult now won't be difficult down the road necessarily. But I know who I was when we started out. And I know that if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't have anything to do with this, because that's not what I wanted in life. I had my happiness, and my own dreams and goals. And I think a good marriage is one where couples are willing to sacrifice for each other. And some of those dreams that just won't die, we snuff them out, so that we may be able to pursue the greater dream, the promises that we made. How we put it, that the vows that we took, those were promises that we made, but over time, those promises begin to make us. They shape us, into who we need to be.
Yeah. And it's, when it comes to marriage ministry, it's important for the ministers to be married, of course, but for both to participate is best.
Yeah,
it's best. It's visuals make a difference. Representation matters. That couples are together in church matters. The church divides us. She's in the choir and he's an usher, or doing, they're separate, and you don't even know they're married. So standing together is so important, or at least coming together at communion at some point, being a visible sign. Also, just observing your own marriage. Look at it. Look at how you feel. Have perspective of the last 5 years compared to now, the last 10 years compared to now. When you have that perspective, you can always see, oh, I remember when we had that, we actually overcame. We actually did it. So that way you're speaking from experience.
And one of the things we asked couples on this past retreat we just did, we asked them, I said, what are some of those things back, when we first began, that were very important to you that don't really matter now? And you become a long list of things that are very different than where we started. And
from arguing about the toilet paper put on wrong, you put it out or in, that kind of silly stuff, to big ticket items. And forgiveness and learning rituals. Like Andrew talked about the habits. Just those little rituals of love that you have at home.
One of the rituals that we practice now is, that notion of, never let your anger, never go to bed without resolving your differences, basically, that kind of thing. That didn't work for us, So what we did make a decision to do is develop a bedtime ritual. No matter what state our relationship is in, we will not go to sleep without a good night kiss. Sometimes that kiss is very passionate and might lead to other things, and sometimes that kiss is a peck. Hey. Years later, we added another part to it, a kiss and a blessing on the forehead, just a sign of the cross on the forehead. And sometimes that kiss is a peck and
that's new.
But the ritual itself calls us back to a truth about who we are. And we're in the dumps now, but we're not going to stay here. And so it speaks of faith. It gives us hope, and it just reminds us of who we are. And we encourage couples to develop those kinds of love rituals that just remind them that they love each other, even when you don't feel it.
I'm taking notes.
I was gonna say I wrote a bazillion, so I could sit here for days and listen to you guys. You have so much wisdom and joy and also hilarity. So I appreciate the humor that comes with it to ease some of the So marriage can be stressful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I appreciate about Terri, and what I appreciated about her from the very beginning when I first met her, is that she's got a sense of humor that matches mine. So we through even our worst times, we always had laughter. We always had laughter.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And on that note, we end with laughter. Thank you, Andrew and Terri Lyke. Marriage on a Lampstand is a wonderful book. If you're looking for something to read as a couple, it's a great, it's just a wonderful read. So Marriage on a Lampstand, Arusi Ministries, Andrew and Terri Lyke, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. If you like this podcast, please click like, share, and subscribe. And forward this on to your marriage ministry leaders at your parish and your pastors. Let them know that you're interested in helping make something happen at your parish and getting involved. And we can do this. Let's be God couples to each other, and support each other, and create this community in our parishes. We can step forward in doing that, and in our own way. So thanks for joining us today on the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, and have a fabulous day. Take care, everyone.
Peace.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. Please click the like and subscribe. And if you find this important to the conversations you're having in your local ministry, please share and join the conversation in the comments below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Catholic Leadership Network podcast.